Hello and welcome to this episode of Polysaturated. I am one of your hosts. I am Zan. I am here with
Crow
and
Jay.
And last 2 weeks we had an interview with My, and hopefully everybody enjoyed that and got a little, useful information out of it. I thought it was kind of fascinating with a polykill that big.
Yeah. That was awesome.
And
thank you, My.
Yeah, and not only that, but how awesome is My? Because of the fact that she became one of our first Patreons.
Yay! Thank you.
She became a Patreon on our Friends with Benefits tier. We have a few different tiers.
I think I'm blushing. Am I blushing? I feel like I'm blushing.
So does that make us another member of our polykill? I don't know. But
not quite.
Not quite. Our tiers are Sweet Beans, and then we have Just Friends, Friends with Benefits, and we have More Than Just Friends, and then we have our Awesome Sauce people, which we would love to have one of those, but whatever. Take what we can get, right? Also, we have Kim left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. So
thank you, Kim.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Kim. That's awesome. We really, really, really appreciate it. Hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving and no fallouts with family, and
Hooray!
Hopefully, well, we didn't have any. We had a really good time.
I hope your turkey was moist, and I hope nobody described it that way.
Why not?
Moist.
Moist turkey is good, the best turkey. Yeah, moist turkey.
Just not use that word to describe it. I don't know.
What is the big
I mean,
deal?
I think
It
I would
bothers
rather
you.
be called moist than juicy. Like I don't know.
That does sound weird.
Yeah. So
But you are juicy.
anyway.
Juicy J.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sounds like a nickname that would have traumatized me in school growing up.
Whoa.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
So, this episode, we are going to continue our holiday season's greetings.
Poly holidays.
It's a poly holiday with somebody.
With
Us.
Mary and Jay and Julie and... No?
Julie?
I don't
Who's
know.
Julie?
Nobody's Julie.
Nobody's Julie.
Nobody's Julie. But it's a poly holiday, so if you start to do,
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
And we're done that.
Okay,
It's too early in the morning for this kind of shenanigans.
The chickens are up and we are not.
Yeah. Okay. This episode, we are going to focus on dealing with toxic families. Yay.
Or just generally getting help during the holidays.
Yeah.
Like making sure that you're most supported and having your best time that you can. That way you're not surrounding yourself with people who are making you miserable.
Yeah.
Hopefully
'Cause
you're not doing that.
You really shouldn't surround yourself with people that make you miserable.
Right.
Well, what gave us this idea was we've been seeing all these posts. I'm sure everybody else has also.
Oh, yeah.
If you're on any sort of social media, all of the memes going around about how to survive the holidays, how to deal with toxic family members, this and that, whatever. And we were just kind of like, these kind of don't apply to us right now.
Anymore.
Right.
Anymore, yeah.
Anymore.
I mean, it took us a while to get there, but we have a huge support system with our family. We're really lucky, but we kind of made it that way.
Right.
You know?
And talking about the holidays and everything, I did see one of our friends posted that she was going to bring 2 of her partners to Thanksgiving, and apparently that was too much for her family, and she decided not to go. And that's disappointing. In our last episodes, talking with My, she has a Friendsgiving to bring all her friends and everybody else that aren't so lucky to have supporting family and friends, and
well, if you're having a Friendsgiving, then you are lucky.
Right.
You are
Right.
blessed with that type of community.
Yeah, and that's awesome. The fact that they bring their friends into their family, it's more of a chosen family, and they have a Friendsgiving, and everybody can be together and be supported.
I think that should be your first warning sign, though. If you're thinking about getting together with whoever it is that you generally plan to get together with for any kind of holiday, Thanksgiving or whatnot, and you're dreading it, you really take that as a red flag.
Yeah.
Take that, why are you dreading it? What's going to happen that you're dreading this? And it's because Aunt Mabel is going to say, Uncle Joe is going to do. Somebody's going to have, be, or do something that really affects you. And it's time to start looking at that situation. It's time to start thinking about, okay, why am I doing this? Why do I keep going here if this is going to happen to me? And why is it okay?
Right.
Or okay, it's not okay. No, I'm just not going to do this anymore.
It simply comes down to the fact that it's not okay.
Right, but you keep going back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you start examine your feelings going into it. Are you going to be around people who are destructive to you? That's what the whole toxic relative thing is. Do they even know they're being toxic?
Right.
More than likely
a lot
not.
of that to me seems like taking ownership for your emotions. And I know there are exceptions and people will do and say things, of course, throughout your life and history or whatever. But also you have a certain amount of responsibility for how people treat you if you haven't indicated that it's not okay to them. You know, if they continue to behave or do these things and you just allow them to keep happening, and then you begrudgingly go there knowing that this is going to happen, and yet you haven't been accountable or responsible enough for your own feelings that you spoke up and said anything, well, of course they're going to continue to do that.
Basically, it comes down to you show people how to treat you.
Yeah, I think it was, I know it's, kind of, people feel how they feel about Dr. Phil, but he said one smart thing. It was, you teach people how to treat you. And I really, truly believe that. And then there's also another saying, what you permit will persist. And so if you're going into these holidays and you've never said anything to your family, that's one of the coping mechanisms of handling toxic family members anytime, but especially through the holidays. Have you had the conversations to set boundaries, to let them know what is and what isn't on the table, what you're willing to discuss? Because we all know, being poly or being in any sort of lifestyle that is quote unquote out of the norm, you're going to get the questions, the probing questions, the completely wrong questions that they shouldn't be asking. They feel entitled to be able to ask you these things, and maybe it is okay for you, but maybe it isn't. And that's if you've even been able to get there, if they've invited you and you're welcome.
Right. But it's so important just not to go into it. I don't even know if this is a good term to use, but don't be a kamikaze about it.
No.
Don't sit there and Uncle Steve or whatever it says something that gets under your skin, and you don't tell him and you don't tell anybody in the universe. You never have the hard conversation. You just get hurt.
Right. But the thing is that there's people like me who completely avoid confrontation at all costs. And I don't like to rock the boat, especially around family members. I avoid situations like that, but at the same time, I won't put myself in a situation where I know confrontation can happen. So I was like, oh, you're talking shit now? Time for me to go somewhere else. Yep, I'll excuse myself from a conversation as quick as possible, because you know what? Fuck you. I won't.
Well, it doesn't have to be a big, humongous presentation.
No.
It can just be like, say, Zan, you said something that was uncomfortable or something that I didn't care for. I could just simply state, well, I hear your question, but I don't feel like I need to answer that, or that's really none of your business, or I would rather talk about something else. And we've told that to the kids. Even the kids are learning that life skill of setting a boundary. Like, yeah, that's really kind of off topic right now. I'm not willing to discuss that. Yeah. And that's your right and your prerogative. And I think the more people exercise that right, the better things are going to be.
But it was when it comes to acceptance and expecting acceptance. We had a situation one time. We were at a friend's house and we were all gathered around to just hang out, play games and whatnot. One of us accidentally misgendered somebody else, and that person said, I apologized and that sort of thing. And that person said, well, everybody gets one. And I thought, I get that you want to stand for yourself. I get that you want to stand for your own identity, and absolutely. But at the same time, it's kind of like, really, one? Like, it's one of those things where people are going to make mistakes, especially if they've known so-and-so for X number of years, and this is ingrained in their mind.
Yeah, they're not doing it to be an asshole about it. They're doing it. It was an accident. It was a slip.
It's one of those things. So absolutely, go ahead and correct them, but gently.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Especially if you're in a kind of a sensitive, this is a family environment. There's chaos everywhere. be gentle with them. It's all good to draw a line in the sand and say, this is my identity, this is who I am, but give chances to those people who have known you since you were 4 or known you since you were born, knew you all the way up through this time, and now things are different. It might take them a minute to say, oh, okay, we do this way now.
Right.
Sometimes they'll catch themselves and love them for those times they catch themselves. I guess don't draw a hard line.
Yeah, and positive reinforcement really, really works. So when you do find that they're doing, they have caught themselves and they've corrected it, let them know, hey, I saw what you did there. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Because there will be those times, like we've had a few times where well-meaning family who are completely accepting or trying to be, they will play favorites sometimes, and that's not on purpose. But it's because they have a stronger connection with someone they've known since they were born versus children that they're just meeting or your spouses that they're just meeting.
Yeah.
So they're going to gravitate towards that child versus the other children. So just be, gently encouraging and even remind them sometimes. They may not realize that they're doing it. If they do, like when we've had to do that before, they've been great about it. Oh, okay. Yeah, let me go speak to, your granddaughter by Polly or whatever. So they do. That encourages and fosters a relationship. It wasn't anything negative that you said. You just gently encouraged. It wasn't condescending. It wasn't condemning. Gentle encouragement will get you further than coming down and just being abrasive and harsh about it.
Makes the other person defensive, and then
Right.
that can cause angst and can cause everybody to say, okay, I'm getting hurt too much, I need to pull away,
Right.
where it didn't have to be that way.
Right.
Yeah. And encourage your children to interact with them as well, or your spouses. If they're feeling awkward and family or friend member wants to get closer to them but doesn't really know how, or maybe they're a little bit awkward about it, encourage your spouse or children to go up to them too and ask questions. Give them ideas of questions to ask. Give them situations to ask about, stories that that person likes to tell. Tell them to ask about it. That way it gets them engaged in conversation and they do get to know each other. There's so many different ways that you can do it, and the holidays do not have to be stressful. Like if Black Friday stresses you out, don't freaking go.
Right.
There, you can make better choices that make your life easier.
But yeah, I woke up early. I got a black eye and a broken nose. But check out this TV I got.
Yeah, I'm going to do it again next year. It's like,
No.
what?
Yeah.
That's...
I've worked in retail. The savings are not that good.
No,
they're
not.
a little bit. They're there. The sale exists,
But
sure.
typically not on the stuff you want.
You will save a little bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
You will. But I would have paid that much money to miss that.
And, you don't have to be snarky or mean or whatever about it. You can be totally respectful and say, I'm really not comfortable talking about that right now.
Hold on, you said something interesting. And I don't know if it's possible for me to not be snarky.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
it can be difficult.
Man,
Yeah.
that's
It
almost
depends on who you're talking to. We're discussing holidays and family, so
Right.
I'm thinking about you, being snarky to your 92-year-old grandmother. I don't think that's going to happen.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
It's one thing when you're with family. It's so easy to get sucked into kind of a hierarchical role, and forget the fact that you've been an adult for 20 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're around your parents again, and now you're 10.
Kind of what I had a pretty rough therapy session, last week, and that was part of it. It was, talking about, what you feel like you owe family.
Right.
What do you actually owe them? If they're not treating you right, or they haven't treated you right in your life, or, why even, why do you feel like you owe them something? And it was kind of like, well, just because you're an adult now, you're an adult. You don't have to stay and deal and put up with it. You can actually, take a stand and do something about it.
You can pick up the ball and go home.
Right.
And just as a courtesy, and I don't know everybody's family situation, so everybody's situation is unique, but I think that there's a high percentage. I don't know what the percentage would be, but I think there's a high percentage of, yes,